Today we're going to plant some potatoes. Well, we're going to start them. I've got 3 65-pound buckets here. I was going to use 5-gallon buckets, but I've already got these. They've already just got a few holes in the bottom. I tried to make an herb tower out of this one time, so there's bigger holes, but it shouldn't be a problem. And we're just going to go ahead and fill these up halfway now, so that as they're growing, we'll keep piling dirt on top. And that gives a better root system, makes more potatoes, etc., etc. So I'm just going to fill these up halfway, and then I'll show you the next step. Alright, so what I've got here is just organic seed potatoes I picked up at a Southern States. They said organic. I don't have purple seed potatoes, but now I do, so I don't really care where they come from. They look pretty good. They've been sitting for a while. Normally, if they're bigger than this, you'll cut them, and then you'll let them sit after you cut them, so the fleshy inside pieces will make more of a callus. It prevents it from rotting in the ground. But because these are small enough, I'm not even going to cut these. I'm just going to put them directly in here. I have 6. Pretty much each one of these eyes will become a plant, but they should be big enough, so I'm just going to space them out across the bucket, 2 per bucket, and then we'll fill them up a little bit over the top. Then as they grow, we'll keep piling it up. I have another one, I'll show you that. I'll actually put a little bit of dirt on top of them. But for now, we're just gonna pretty much take these in here. We're gonna pick the side. This one's easy because the bottom doesn't have any eyes, the top does. So we'll just kind of stick them right in the ground like that. And then we'll just cover them up with about maybe 2 or 3 inches of dirt. All right, so we put just a couple inches of dirt on top of the seed potatoes that we put in here. There's 2 in each of these buckets. Inside of this bucket, however, we had some volunteer potatoes come up in some of our raised beds. So I just went ahead and pulled them out, put them in here. There's 3, or probably gonna end up being 4 plants inside of here. As you can see, they've already started to grow. So what I'm gonna do is get my dirt. Get some in here. Uncover the plants just a little bit. And we're just going to leave it something like that. We're going to cover them up almost all the way. This one's a little bit taller, so I'm going to wait to cover him most of the way. Like this one, even the small one is pretty much almost completely covered. He's down there. But they will grow through that. You just want to make sure that they're not completely covered. I can't uncover that one because I have the bucket sideways, but once I get it back down where it's gonna go for a while, I will uncover that and let it sit. But besides that, we're gonna water these. But that's pretty much it if you're planting in containers. You can do this in a 5-gallon bucket. I initially had planned to do it in 5-gallon buckets, but I've already got these. They've already got the holes. This is what I planted them in last year, and it worked out pretty well. If you do it in a 5-gallon bucket, I would put only 1 plant in each one. So pretty much if you have, like, even store-bought potatoes can eye. I have some inside I put in the window and they're starting to eye. When you do that, pretty much every single eye that has a sprout can turn into a plant. So if you do it in a 5-gallon bucket, they're not that big. You'll do the same process where you fill it halfway, put the seed potatoes in, and then as they grow, you'll just keep covering it up until it almost reaches the top of the bucket, and then you'll let it do its thing as the rest of the plant. But when you do this and you start halfway, last year what I did is I had these same buckets, but I filled them up almost to 4 inches till the top of the bucket of soil first, then put the potatoes in. And what I found is actually the top 8 inches of the bucket would grow potatoes. Everything underneath of that was just root, and that was it. So I did a little bit of research, and what I see out there is a lot of people doing stuff like this, where you fill the bucket halfway, and then as the plant grows, you keep covering up the stem, leaving just some of the top leaves exposed so it can still produce photosynthesis. So these are watered, they're planted. I got these guys set up, covered with dirt a little bit. But that's pretty much it. Once you do this, you just let them sit. Same thing as this one that I showed you earlier. Once they start growing up, you just pack the dirt around the bottom of the stem. Kind of like a tomato, when a lot of people will dig really deep holes and let their tomatoes get really tall before they put them in the ground, and then that extra stem space that you put underground will actually turn into a larger root system right off the bat. So it gives you a much hardier plant, sturdier plant to grow throughout the season. So same thing that we're doing with these, we're gonna make the stem turn into a bigger root system. More roots for potatoes mean more potatoes at the end. So we're gonna do that with all these. We're gonna try to get them to grow up to about the top of the bucket, level it off, and then that's where we'll stop and let the plant grow. And that should give us a good 12 to 14 inches of root space to grow the actual potatoes in here. But other than that, we're in zone 7A. For us, these will only go until about sometime midsummer. Once it gets really, really hot, it's really hard to keep these things going. So what we'll probably end up doing is taking these, letting them go for as long as they can. A lot of times the actual tops of the potatoes will die off. Once that happens, it's the same thing like onions. If you're planning on using them, you eat a lot of potatoes, you use it for a lot of different stuff, you can, once the tops die down, you can actually just dump the whole bucket somewhere where you're not gonna have to move the soil. You can do it in your beds if they've been used up. The soil that will come out of here will be practically nutrient-less. The potatoes take a lot of fertilizer, a lot of nutrients out of the ground to make the potato. So this will be good filler dirt as long as there's no disease or anything that you encounter throughout the season. So they'll get tall, pile it up, cover them up as you go, and then once the tops die down, that's pretty much telling you that the potatoes are done. If you're around here and it's really hot, they may die out before they get to full size, but that's okay, because we'll just end up taking some out, reseeding them, and having another harvest for fall. But like I said, once the tops die down, that's pretty much when you want to harvest them. If you plan on storing them, you'll actually let the tops die down, smash them flat, kind of like onion tops, and then just let them sit in the ground for another 2 to 3 weeks. And that lets the skin on the potato harden more, because it's pulling all the nutrients out, and because the plant's not really alive on the top, it knows that it needs to survive in the ground for now. So it'll actually thicken the skin, and that thick skin will help them keep longer. Besides that, that's pretty much it for potatoes. This is how I'm going to do it this year. It was a little different from last year, but this is what I've seen is what the majority of people do. Even when you grow them in trenches, you'll actually see that people dig the trench deeper, and then as the plant grows, they'll cover it up as they go. So I definitely recommend trying it this way. You guys can stick around and see how it does for us this year. We'll make sure to share how much came out of each bucket. I know last year we got quite a bit out of just 3 of these. So hopefully this year should be much better. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we look forward to sharing more with you soon.